Hi everyone, I'm Steve and this is the College Support Network. In the past, I've worked in high schools as a college advisor, and I also have experiences with college financial aid, academic advising, as well as admissions. I'm really passionate about college access, and I know applying to colleges can be really confusing and really hard. So that's why I'm here to provide you all with the most accurate and quality information so you can reach your college goals. For today's video, I'll be walking you all through the Common App application, and similar to the CSU, the UC application walkthroughs that I did before this, I will be splitting it into two videos just because, as you'll find out, the Common App application is super long, and I didn't want you all to have to sit through an hour-long video. So I'll be splitting this into two parts just so it's a little bit more digestible for you all. Specifically for today's video, I want to go over some general tips I have for you all before you get started. And then from there, I'll walk you through how to create your account. Next, I'll go over specific tabs or sections that you'll find in the Common App application. This includes things such as the My Colleges tab, the Dashboards tab, the Courses and Grades section that you'll find in the Common App tab, and then lastly for this video, I'll be finishing up with the Financial Aid Resources tab. However, before I start, please go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really does help the channel out. With all that being said, let's get started. So similar to every other college application walkthrough series that I have, I always want to start with some general tips I have for you all before we get started. The first common application tip I have for you all is something that I already mentioned earlier in the video, but it's just to remember that the common application is super long, and the more colleges that you apply to, the longer that process is going to be. Whether you're applying to 1 college or 10 colleges in the Common App application, the application itself is going to be really long, so I really suggest you all to start as early as possible. I know I'll be releasing this video in mid-October, but for most students, you probably should have started in September or August already, to be honest with you. The next tip is just to make sure that you have all unofficial or official information that's related to your academic profile ready when you start applying. This includes information such as high school transcripts, college transcripts, SAT or ACT exams, AP exams, IB exams, or just any other exam that you're going to be using to apply to the application. And as I mentioned in other videos, this is a really good and smart idea just because it allows you to fill out the application as efficient as possible in as little time as possible. So you're not really ever guessing what your scores or your grades were or the classes that you took were. You have them physically or even electronically with you so you can fill it out. And similar to that point, it just allows you to be as accurate as possible when you're filling out the application. This is because a lot of schools will delay your admission decision or just deny you outright if you input wrong information on the application. So as always, just make sure to have these unofficial or official test scores or transcripts or whatever you need with you when you're applying. The next tip I have for you all is just to remember that the Common App does have 2 main sections that students have to complete before they submit. You'll learn more about this throughout this video as well as the next video that you watch, but to put it in the most simple terms, one part of the application is going to be the Common App section where you'll just be providing general information about yourself and things that can be used for multiple campuses that you apply to. And the second main part is going to be the My Colleges section or tab where you'll be filling out information specifically to every single college campus that you're applying to. And for this section, you'll be completing specific writing supplements, filling out short answer questions, filling out letters of recommendation, and so on. So this is totally separate from the general Common App application, which you'll be sending to every single school. And similar to this point, the next tip I have for you all is just to pay really close attention to deadlines. As we learned in the California Private Colleges video, private colleges work on their own time. That means they have their own deadlines, their own guidelines, their own requirements, and things like that. So for students that are applying to multiple private colleges, chances are the application deadlines are going to be very different for every single campus you apply to. To make this even more confusing, a lot of the college campuses that you're going to be applying to are going to have multiple deadlines as well. For example, schools like Harvey Mudd, Claremont McKenna, USC, Stanford, Caltech, and other private schools in California, and even outside of California, have multiple deadlines such as the regular decision deadline or the early decision deadline or early action. So it's really important for students to take the responsibility upon themselves to make sure they know the deadlines for every single campus that they're applying to. And the last common tip I have for you all is just to make sure that you use all the resources, services, and even tools that the Common App has for you within the application itself. For example, there's a Common App team that is able to support you and help you with any application related questions 24 hours a day, every single day of the year. And you can actually reach them at recovery@commonapp.net. The Common App also has a specific webpage to show videos and walk students through specific parts of the application. I'll leave that link below, and then I'll leave links to other articles and other resources I use to find information for this video. To create your profile or account for the Common Application, you'll want to visit commonapp.org, and then once you're on this page, go ahead and click on Apply Now. From here, students should go ahead and click on the correct identity to start the application. For the majority of students that are traditional first-time freshmen, just go ahead and click on First Year Student. Once you're on this page, go ahead and just create and fill out the information as you would for any other website or account that you're creating. You'll have to add things such as a professional email, then you'll have to create a password, and then from there you'll need to provide your name, contact information, and date of birth. For the question that asks which best describes you, most students that are applying for the fall 2021 semester should click on the first option, which basically just means that you're applying as a first year student and you plan to start college in either 2020 or 2021. Once you create your account, you'll then be led to the dashboard or main page tab where you'll see all the different aspects of the application that you'll need to complete before you submit. Please note for this section and other sections as well, you won't have anything to answer or you won't have any questions to complete because you'll need to add colleges to your profile first. For this very reason, I really suggest students to ignore the Common App tab that you'll find in the middle just because this asks for general information about the application and about yourself. I usually suggest students to add colleges onto the My Colleges tab via the College Search tab just so they can fill out the entire application all at once as opposed to doing the general application first and then having to add colleges after. When you're on the College Search tab, you'll find that there are a lot of different filters that you can use to find colleges to apply to. This can be really useful for students that don't really have a strong college list or don't know where they want to apply, but know some things that they want out of a college. For students that have a strong college list already or know where they want to apply, the process is actually really simple. In the search bar, you could simply just put the name of the college or university that you want to apply to, or alternatively, you could also just put the city where the college or university is located. Once you find the college, go ahead and just click on the plus button that you see there, and then it should be added to your My Colleges tab. To add more colleges, you'll just want to repeat the process over and over again until you have all the colleges that you want to apply to. As I mentioned already, for students that don't know where they're going to be applying or don't have a strong college list, I really do recommend just playing around with the filters and putting in things that you want out of the college application process and just things that you want out of the college in general. With that being said, if you do find yourself in the situation where you don't know where you're going to be applying, I really do recommend watching my previous video called How to Build the Best College List. In that video, I give a lot of great tips for students to build a college list as well as how to figure out which colleges are going to be a good match and fit for you. In the College Search tab, I also really recommend students to take advantage of the application requirements function that the Common App has for you. The function is meant to provide information so students can understand what the requirements are for each college that they might want to apply to. It provides information about whether the campus has early decision, early action, rolling admissions, and when the dates are for these. Then it also has information about application fees, whether essays or course grade input is required, supplemental requirements, test scores, and then letters of recommendation as well. This is a great way for you all to stay on track of what requirements are for each campus that you're applying to. And for students that are unsure about which colleges they're applying to, but they know they don't want to write a supplemental essay or they know they don't want to submit letters of recommendation, this is a great way for you to narrow down your college list as well. For the general Common App, you have the option to apply to up to 20 college campuses. And then once you're done selecting the campuses that you want to apply to, they'll all show up in the My Colleges tab, which I mentioned earlier. Once your colleges are selected, you can return to the dashboard and My Colleges tab, and then view general information as well as requirements for each campus that you're applying to. Like I mentioned earlier, I really do recommend students to look at the My Colleges tab first. You don't have to start filling out information here first, but it's usually a good idea for you to look at the requirements that are needed for each individual campus before you start filling out the general application. In the My Colleges tab, you'll be able to view all the requirements as well as other important information for every single campus that you selected. The important information here includes things such as contact information for every single campus that you're applying to, and this includes things such as phone numbers, fax, email address, physical addresses, and even links. Another important piece of information here is the application deadlines for all rounds, such as early action, regular decision, rolling admission, and so on. Along with this, you'll also be able to see the fees and costs that are associated with every single campus that you're applying to. And lastly, the page will list all requirements that are needed to complete the full application for each individual campus. The requirements will typically list things such as testing policies, course and grade requirements, special writing requirements or supplements, college-specific questions which will always differ between each school, and then lastly, letters of recommendation. On the left side of the page, you'll also be able to see all the colleges that you selected, and then once you click on it, you should be able to see all the requirements that are needed for that individual campus. Unfortunately, I don't want to go into too much detail or dive too deep into this section just because, as I mentioned so many times already, all private schools are going to be completely different from one another. One school's admissions requirements or eligibility is going to be totally different from another school's. So it's really important for you all to take the responsibility upon yourself here and just make sure you know what's needed from you for every single college that you're applying to. I know this could be really hard depending on how many colleges that you apply to, and honestly, I really suggest students not to apply to too many colleges if they're going to be stressed out or they have too much work to do. But like I said, just try to write things down, try to be familiar with what's required of you, so then when you submit your application, you won't run into any issues. Also, in the My Colleges section, you'll find the letters of recommendation if your colleges do require it. If your campus does require it, you will first need to sign a release authorization. I really do suggest all students to read through the instructions here that are listed, but in general, students have to confirm that they will waive their right to read the recommendation letters before submitting. And this is just to ensure that the letters that are written for you are genuine and truthful. This also allows colleges to obtain records and other information from your previous high schools and colleges to confirm that the information you input was correct. Additionally, this allows the different colleges that you're applying to contact the high schools and colleges that you attended. If you want a little bit more information about what I'm talking about, or maybe you're just still a little bit confused about this section, I really do suggest talking to your high school counselor, your guidance counselor, or maybe a college advisor to get more clarity. This is totally fine because honestly, I was really confused about this section when I was applying to colleges as well. Once you waive your right to read recommendations and allow the release of your records, you will then be able to invite recommenders and evaluators to your application. For the letters of recommendation section, please also remember that the requirements for each individual campus is going to be a little bit different from one another. And on top of this, please remember that there are different types of recommendations available for each individual campus. Some campuses that you apply to will simply just need a counselor recommendation with a school report or a final report before you graduate. And then other schools will actually require 3 letters of recommendation, 2 from a teacher and then 1 from a family member. Like I said, it really depends on each individual campus, so it's really important for you to stay on top of this and know what's required from you. In general though, there are usually 4 different types of recommenders or evaluators for the Common App. The first is typically your guidance counselor or any counselor that has the ability to submit your school forms or reports. Usually they'll submit things such as your mid-year evaluation or your final report. The next type of recommender is usually a teacher who actually writes a letter of recommendation for you. Typically, these teachers or recommenders are able to talk about your ability to do well in college level courses or just your ability to succeed in college at all. Similarly, the next type of recommender that the Common App allows are considered other recommenders, and these are people that are usually able to talk about your ability to succeed in general. For these recommenders, they are usually optional and can have different roles in your life such as family member, coach, college-specific counselor, or so on. For this specific recommender, I really do suggest students to look at every single campus that they're applying to, look at the requirements and see what's even considered an other recommender. Usually for each campus, they'll make a list of different options that are available for you, so make sure to just choose from that list. And the last type of recommender or evaluator that you could add to the Common App is simply just an advisor. And to put it most simply, an advisor is just someone that you give permission or access to view the information that you're putting down in the Common App. Their main purpose is to help you with the application process and provide you with any tips or advice wherever they see fit. Please do remember though that the advisors do not have an active role in your application, so they're not submitting any forms for you, they're not submitting any reports, and they're definitely not writing your letters of recommendation. In general, the My Colleges tab is really useful for students to understand what's required of them, and then also to just get general information about the campuses that they're applying to. As I mentioned earlier, the next video that I create for the Common App is going to focus mainly on the Common App tab. And in the Common App tab, you'll also find the courses and grades section. Although technically that section is supposed to be in the next video, I wanted to talk about it specifically here because not every single campus that you're applying to is going to require it. At the top of the courses and grades section, you'll actually be able to see the list of colleges from the ones that you selected that require this section. The great thing about this section though is that if you have multiple campuses that require you to fill it out, you only need to fill it out once and it could be used over and over again for every single campus that requires it. When you're on this page, the first few questions will ask if you are able to get a copy of your transcripts, and if yes, if your transcripts show your grades for completed courses. Please note that you do not actually have to have a copy of your transcripts to fill out this section. However, with that being said, it really does help you fill it out as accurately as possible. If you can get a copy of your transcripts and you do have it available with you, you could go ahead and start filling out your 9th to 12th grade courses. To add classes, the process is actually pretty quite simple. Students will click on each individual year and provide descriptions and information for each class that they took. In the first portion, students will have to input information such as school name, school year, grading scale, and schedule. Once this has been added, you will then need to provide subject, course name, and course level, and the grades that you received for each individual class. I really do think the process is pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. However, I do have some tips for you all. The first is just use the walkthrough video or the walkthrough tools that they have available for you. As you click through it, it tells you exactly what you need to put down. It asks you what the question is asking and where you can actually find the information on your transcripts. And the second tip I have for you all is something that I mentioned throughout this entire video and pretty much all my application videos, and it's just to have your transcripts out. I know I say it a lot, but it really does make the process super smooth and super easy for you. The goal for this entire section and any course and grade section is just to make it look exactly as it does on your transcripts. And the best way to do that is just to have your transcripts with you. And the very last tab I want to talk about for this video is the Financial Aid Resources tab. This section or tab is going to be really brief because there's actually no real things that you need to complete on this application, at least not within the application itself. To put it most simply, this tab is basically just a bunch of resources, information, services, and articles that have been made available for you by the Common App to help you finance your education. More specifically, they provide students with information such as the different types of financial aid, including federal aid, state aid, and aid specifically for the campuses that you apply to. And then they talk about how students can plan and budget for costs related to going to college, and then how exactly to apply to financial aid and the different applications that are involved. Next, they talk about exploring scholarship opportunities and how students can apply to different scholarships. And for students that do want a specific in-depth video about scholarship opportunities and how to get scholarships, I will be making that video in the future, so make sure to subscribe so you can be the first to see that. And lastly, the Financial Aid Resources tab will talk about how to compare financial aid offers and financial aid packages from the different schools that you've been accepted into. And like I mentioned earlier, although there's nothing that is required of you to fill out in this section, I really do recommend you also look through every single resource that they made available for you, just because going to college is getting more and more expensive, and typically speaking, private colleges can be really expensive, so learning how to finance your education using these resources can be really helpful. And with that, that's all the information and content I have for this video. Before I let you go though, I do have some questions for you. How many private colleges are you applying to in the Common application? Which colleges are you applying to? And why? Make sure to leave your answers in the description box below. Alright y'all, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and spending it with me learning about college. I think that's super awesome. Like I said already, this is only the first part of the Common App application, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already to watch the second part. And as always, thumbs if you learned and subs if you loved. Take care y'all.